Good morning and welcome to First Parish Church of Stowe and Acton, FPC, to our members and friends, a welcoming spiritual community. My name is Karen Kinnear and I facilitate the small group ministry program. So welcome to all and special welcome if this is your first time with us. Our minister is the Reverend Cindy Landrum. Our music director is Brad Dumont. Our welcoming and membership coordinator is Jolene Trotta. Our religious education director is Michelle Cote. And our other staff members are listed in the order of service. During the service, feel free to message Jolene Trotta with any questions about our programs or email any of the staff after the service. Their emails are on our webpage. We also invite you to check out our webpage for news and information. I will post the webpage at the end of the announcements, and you can sign up there for our newsletter and email alerts. Upcoming events are listed in our order of service, which is available on our website under the Sunday service information. So this week we are online only. We are hoping to be back both in person and online next Sunday, so please keep your eyes on the webpage and our FPC announce for the time and locations of services next week. You can subscribe to FPC announce on our webpage. After the service, it's customary to have coffee hour. We'll do that today with breakout groups that will last about 15 minutes. Please join us for conversation and to learn more about FPC. Here are a couple major announcements. So today, the junior and senior youth will meet on Zoom for online games with Marissa. Junior youth will meet at 11 and senior youth at noon. Check your emails for the link. The RE committee recognizes that being a parent is hard at any given time, but particularly during COVID. Many people are feeling isolated and just want an opportunity to connect with others. We invite you to join in a discussion today, this morning, right after the service, facilitated by Russ Hart and several RE committee members, entitled Shared Wisdom and Connection in the Time of COVID. To join the discussion at the end of today's service, decline the invitation to join a breakout room and stay in the main room. So the discussion will be in the main room at the end of the service. Take some time to give yourself a chance to talk and listen to other parents. And the last announcement is registration for the 2022 small group ministry groups closes at noon today. So small group ministry is a program that forms groups of 8 to 10 people who meet monthly for 2 hours for a facilitated discussion, which offers a chance to get to know ourselves better and connect to each other. I joined this program personally when my kids were in high school, having a strong need for adult conversations. I've been part of several groups since then, and I feel an extra special bond with any former group members, which is quite a few people in this church. So it makes this feel like my extended family. Although frankly, less dysfunctional, but that's just me. Anyway, so register via fpc-stowe-acton.org/SGM, which has both information and registration, or email me. I'm Karen@kinnear.com by noon today, and I will post both of those in the chat. And now let us come together in the spirit of worship.
We would like to acknowledge that this service is being held by a community that gathers on the stolen traditional lands of the Massachusetts, Nipmuc, Pawtucket, and Wampanoag people. We pay respect to elders who lost their lives in the colonization of this land and recognize that these indigenous tribes are still today facing violations of sovereignty, territory, and water. We also give thanks for the earth we walk upon, the waters, the life-giving plants, and all the earth's creatures, as well as the winds, sun, moon, and stars. We recognize this is just a first step in moving toward right relationship with Native peoples and healing of the earth.
Good morning, everyone. Our opening words come from the Reverend Joan Javier Duval, titled Lay It Down. Here is where you can lay it down. Lay down all that you have carried, the weight of the world that has rounded your back, leaving you aching and exhausted. Here is where the healing begins, where burdens are set down and alongside one another's, their magnitude does not seem as great. Here Here is where the door is thrown open and the light can lift away the shadows, and what was hidden can now be seen. Here is where you can rest, where nothing is expected, but that you bring all of who you are into the presence of this holy and loving community. The Flaming Chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, created during World War II to mark safe houses during Nazi occupation. We light it for many different things. Today, I light it for healing and warmth and love of community. Please join in singing along with Brad our opening hymn, Winds Be Still.
Winds be still, storm clouds pass and silence come. Peace grace this time with harmony. Fly, bird of hope, and shine, light of love, and in a calm let all find tranquility. Bird, fly high, lift our gaze toward distant view, help us to sense life's mystery. Fly high and far, and lead us each to see how we move through the winds of eternity. Light shining, illuminate our inward view, help us to see with clarity. Shine bright and true, so we may join our songs in new sounds that become a full symphony. And now please join us in our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. From all that dwell below the skies, let words of love and peace arise. Let joyful songs of praise be sung through every land, by every tongue.
Our Story for All Ages is a lovely book that I found that is I'm going to share it with you as a PowerPoint here. Rain Before Rainbows. And this is by, oh shoot, I cannot see who it's by on this screen. There we go. By Smriti Prasadam Halls and illustrated by David Litchfield. Rain before rainbows, clouds before sun, night before daybreak, the old day is done. There are mountains for climbing, journeys to take, dreams that are hopeful, decisions to make. Dark days may shake us and worries creep in, with dragons to duel and battles to win. Thunder will rumble, lightning will flash, the wind will start blowing, tall waves will crash. But there are footsteps to follow and words that are wise. There's a map that will guide us when troubles arise. There are friends who will help us, courageous and kind, a rope to hold on to, and treasure to find. Sowing and planting, roots before shoot, stem before flower, leaf before fruit, rain before rainbows, clouds before sun, night before daybreak, a new day's begun. A day full of promise, a day full of light. The morning is breaking and the morning is bright. And what I liked about this story is that it talks about how you need the rain first before the rainbows, that until you have the rain, you are not going to have the rainbows. And so sometimes that hardship that we go through is what's necessary in order to provide and create and help us build towards the wonderful things of the future. And that's the way it is a lot of the times in life. And what I'm going to be talking about more later is that we build from our adversity, just as the rain comes after the rainbows. And now it's time for us to share our joys and sorrows together and gather community. And so I invite you to unmute and share joy and sorrow, beginning with Ingrid Holcomb, our lay minister, who's going to share those that she's received from offsite. And Brad's going to light candles for us here in the sanctuary. For all these joys and sorrows shared in community, may we remember that a joy shared is a joy doubled and a sorrow shared is a sorrow halved. At least we hope in our hearts. Our words for prayer or meditation are anonymous, titled, "All of You is Holy." Forget about enlightenment. Sit down wherever you are and listen to the wind that is singing in your veins. Feel the longing, the fear, the love in your bones. Open your heart to who you are right now, not who you'd like to be, not the saint you're striving to become, but the being right here before you, inside you. All of you is holy. You're already more and less than whatever you can know. Breathe out. Look in. Let go. Blessed be, and amen. Our next hymn is number 1055. If you have a teal hymnal at home, we're also putting the words in the chat, "How Sweet the Darkness." Take it away, Brad.
When windows that are dark and cold are lit anew with fires of gold, when dusk in quiet shall descend, and darkness comes once more a friend. When wings pursue their proper flight, and bring not terror but delight, when when clouds are innocent again, and hide no storms of deadly rain. And when the sky is swept of wars, and keeps but gentle moon and stars, that peaceful sky, that harmless air, how sweet the darkness there.
Our reading today is the lyrics of the song Anthem by Leonard Cohen, which I've abridged a bit because it is a long song. So here they are. The birds they sang at the break of day, start again, I heard them say. Don't dwell on what has passed away or what is yet to be. Ah, the wars, they will be fought again. The holy dove, she will be caught again. Bought and sold and bought again. The dove is never free. Ring the bells that can still ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. We asked for signs. The signs were sent. The birth betrayed, the marriage spent. Yeah, and the widowhood of every government. Signs for all to see. You can add up the parts, but you won't have the sum. You can strike up the march. There is no drum. Every heart to love will come, but like a refugee. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. Thus ends the reading. Our offering today is shared with Rhea House. More about Rhea House can be found in your order of service. And they are an organization that we have, I think, partnered with for one of our plate sharing groups every year that I've been here. So it's obvious to me that this is something our church cares passionately about, which is helping people who are caught in human trafficking, human slavery which still exists today in this age, and which should exist no more. So for the good work of that organization and for the work of this church, we are so grateful for all your many donations that have kept us sustained and running through this hard time during which we see the cracks in everything. You are how the light gets in here, literally and figuratively. Thank you.
Today's offertory comes from our teal hymnal. It's Busca el Amor. And I'm putting in the chat a link where you can learn more about the song and also follow along with the lyrics, which are in Spanish, where you can find the English translation in there as well. So if you know this song, please feel free to sing along. I'm sure it'll catch on quickly with you.
A tu corazón para hallar el amor en un rincón, pero busca el amor, ni placer ni pasión, el amor, lo que hace al otro bien. Busca el amor en ti, se multiplica si lo repartís. Busca el amor en ti, solo el que ama puede ser feliz. Busca el amor en ti, se multiplica si lo repartís. puede ser feliz. Busca el amor en ti, en ti. Registra tu camaleón cuando cambia el color del corazón y que está la flor, un pétalo del sol, el amor. Lo que hace al otro bien, busca el amor en ti, se multiplica si lo repartís. Busca el amor en ti, solo el que el ama puede ser feliz. Busca el amor en ti, se multiplica si lo repartís. Busca el amor en ti, solo el que alma se le es feliz. Busca el amor en ti, en ti.
Thank you, Brad, and thank you, Sanghee. Told Brad that's going to be in my head all week. I just know sometimes there's a song from Sunday worship and I'm singing it all week long. And this week it's going to be Busca Amor. I was thinking this week a lot about a woman named Linda Hollis. Linda Hollis was an African-American woman Methodist minister, author of the book Jesus and the Bodacious Women. And she and I were part of a women in ministry group in Michigan for a few years until she suddenly died very tragically and suddenly. She loved the word bodacious and applied it to herself and applied it to me and to others, and indeed got us organized so that we created the Bodacious Woman Award and gave it out to local officials. And at that ceremony, I learned this poem titled Mother Wisdom Speaks by Christine Lore Weber. And this has become a poem that's been a touchstone for me, and one of those poems that just stays with me throughout my ministry and my life. In the poem, the mother wisdom, or the goddess, is speaking to the reader, who she calls daughter. And she says, I will carve you so deep, the stars will shine in you. The purpose of this, she says, is because the world needs your hollowness to support and sustain and nourish it. And then the poem ends with these words, I am shaping you. I am making you ready. Light will flow in your hollowing. You will be filled with light. Your bones will shine. The round open center of you will be radiant. I will call you brilliant one. I will call you daughter who is wide. I will call you transformed. That image of being hollowed out because the world needs your hollowness so that the light can shine through you, I think is something that's stayed with me as a central image of what we're all to some degree striving for in our lives. Striving to be filled with the Holy Spirit, if you believe in Holy Spirit, striving to be filled with the love and passion to change the world, if that's your theology. In those early days of my ministry, while women in Unitarian Universalism had crossed the 50% line, women were still a minority in the ministry in general, and definitely a minority in smaller and more conservative towns like the one I lived in. And women were bringing into the ministry a different model than their predecessors had. One example of that was the discussion in those days around the concept of the wounded healer. In 1979, Henry Nouwen wrote a ministry book by that title, The Wounded Healer, which was based on the concept of the wounded healer from Carl Jung. But it was still controversial in the 1990s as I entered seminary, despite the fact that it was decades old news. The old guard of ministers were primarily male, cis, straight, and the concept of ministering from your woundedness, ministering from the places where you knew pain and suffering, well, that struck some of them as dangerous talk. And in some ways, I think they were right, that there is a point at which you can be too broken inside and let all your pain and suffering be spilling onto people when you need to be ministering. And that's a point at which you should not be in this kind of role. But there are other points where I think maybe it was just too feminine a concept to show vulnerability and to connect with people from the places in which you were vulnerable. Fortunately, we've come a long way since then, and it's no longer a gender binary pole difference between ministers on how we accept that concept. And as Kelly Clarkson says, we all kind of embrace that whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. We understand through examples from pop culture and film, books, music, and more, that we can emerge stronger from those places where we've been hurt, and that those places shape us into being compassionate and caring people. We all probably can hold images in our head of things that we've repaired, things that were broken that have become stronger for the mending, where those places where the glue where we've used to bind things, or the solder that we've put in there to hold something together has become stronger than the thing was originally. There's a myth that this is true for bones, which aren't really stronger where they're broken, but sometimes they are, like my leg here, my right leg, where I broke it in 1992 as I was walking through the snow and I slipped and fell in some ice. And it now has a metal rod down that leg and ever since, and it's not breaking again unless something really significant happens. Sometimes those broken places are also more beautiful when they're broken, in the way that we can learn to appreciate our scars because they show us what we've been through. In Japanese culture, there's an art form known as Kitsugi. In Kitsugi, broken pottery is put back together with a seam of gold. And instead of trying to hide the break is highlighted with glistening metal. And the result is beautiful. A previously fairly ordinary clay bowl becomes a web of glistening strands. Kitsugi is what I thought of when I first heard those Leonard Cohen lyrics. There's a crack in everything, and that's where the light gets in. And Christine Lohr Weber's words, you will be filled with light. Or the Rumi words that our guest preacher will be sharing next week, the wound is where the light enters you. I know for me it is true. The ways in which I have been wounded by the world, the experiences of sexism, of fat phobia, of childhood bullying, those wounds are a source for having grown compassion, grown caring, grown a connection to the woundedness of others, grown a deep concern about fighting oppression. And while we don't wish for these wounds to happen to anyone, they have made me a stronger and more caring person, a better person. I'm guessing many of you relate to that concept as well. We see the wounded healer archetype in our society often, though it's not always a healer per se, but the idea of a character who has been hurt using their understanding from that hurt to help others in some way is all over our culture. An example for me is the TV show Monk, about a detective who has a psychologically deep hurt from the murder of his beloved wife, who uses that experience to fuel his passion for solving crimes and helping others. A friend recently pointed out to me that the old children's story and movie Pollyanna, which we've turned into the phrase being a Pollyanna, meaning someone with a sort of insipid level of optimism and sunniness. But the story of Pollyanna is the story of a girl who's an orphan. She goes to live with a relative who doesn't really want her. And she takes on that bleak experience and uses it to focus on bringing happiness to others. Perhaps one ultimate pop culture example of that idea of working from your wounds and letting that be the place where the light shines in, for me, might be Batman. Most of us know Batman's origin story, but for the record, Bruce Wayne was the child of a wealthy couple, and his parents were killed in front of him as they exited a theater. This leads to the concept of Bruce Wayne taking on the secret identity of Batman in order to fight crime, to seek justice for others when justice for his parents had been denied. It's the ultimate example of someone who was cracked through by his experience, and from that place of woundedness, light shines. But those Leonard Cohen words, there is a crack in everything, that's how the light gets in, don't have to be that extreme. We don't all have to be Batman. My daughter pointed out to me that Jonathan Larson is also an example of this. We watched recently the musical Tick, Tick, Boom on, is it Netflix or Hulu, whatever streaming service it was on. Jonathan Larson is the composer of the musical Rent. And when he wrote Tick, Tick, Boom, he was in this period between his sort of failed first attempt at a musical, which was, well praised by the critics and people who heard it, but it just was decided wasn't right for either Broadway or off Broadway and really went nowhere. And he was in between that period and the period of success that he would actually never see because he died before Rent made it to Broadway, or before he died on opening night when Rent was first coming to the stage. But he had in this middle period, this fertility period, where he used his experience of loss, of pain, and realized that he needed to write from his life, to write from his own experience. And so Rent becomes a musical where he's talking about the poverty he sees around him. He's talking about his friends dying of AIDS. He's talking about the oppression of homophobia in the culture and bringing all those things to the stage in a wonderful way. When I saw Tick, Tick, Boom, there's this moment where I think it's his manager who says to him, next time, write from what you know. And I was like, where have I heard that before? Where have I heard that before? What is it that's tickling in my memory? And then I remembered, it's Louisa May Alcott. She goes through the same thing in Little Women, where she's trying to write these lurid, dramatical pieces. And finally, Professor Bear says to her, write from what you know. And so she uses that experience, her experience of poverty, of people dying around her, of struggling through that time in life, and brings it to the page. And the result is Little Women. And the character Joe mirrors the same thing that Louisa, the author, mirrors within the book. But when I hear Leonard Cohen's words, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. I think this is more than just us individually on a personal level. This is societal. I picture in my mind an image from the British television show Doctor Who, where there was a crack. In one season, there was a crack running through the universe. And so there was a crack that appeared on someone's wall, but it didn't go through to the next room. It went through to somewhere else in the universe. And of course, this was not a good thing and something that needed to be fixed. But right now, I think that metaphor, that there's a crack in everything, is a metaphor for this pandemic time. Our society has cracked right through to the center. One of our members posted a picture on Facebook this week of a situation where schools in Oklahoma have so many sick teachers out that they're filling the classrooms with police officers in order to keep kids in school. When I saw that example, I was just stunned for a minute about the whole wrongness of that image in so many ways. There's a crack in everything, a crack that is a sign that our systems and structures have broken down so much that we're trying to throw out whatever will work in a desperate attempt to prove that life is normal when it is not. I Googled, just for fun, cracks in the system, pandemic, recently, and the result was that over and over and over again, articles and studies from all sorts of different professions, largely healthcare, but other things as well, saying this pandemic has widened the cracks or revealed the cracks or exacerbated the cracks that were already there in our system. Healthcare, the problems that we knew were in there in the healthcare system have been broken wide open for people to see much more clearly. But that's true about cracks in the legal system, cracks in the educational system, cracks in the workplace systems, cracks in the prison industrial system. And sometimes also we're seeing those cracks in the structures of white supremacy, of capitalism, the structures of oppression, the prison industrial system, as I said, the war machine. We see cracks running through every sector, and it is an opportunity to let the light shine in. This is my eternal optimism, that we can take this desperately broken time and use it to let the light shine into the world. But how? But how? You know, I think there are so many different ways, friends. There are new and creative and innovative ways happening all the time. I watched a TED Talk by game writer Jane McGonigal, who talked about how games like World of Warcraft teach people to realize that they are experts who can go on an epic mission and save the universe and have the tools to do it. And what we need to do is to change our attitudes in real life so that we understand we're on an epic mission and we can save the world and we have the tools to do it. And so she proposes doing that through creating games that mirror the real world and teach us to use our skills in the real world and outside of the world of gaming. But I think there's so many other ways we can do it as well. I remain hopeful, fundamentally hopeful at the core of things, that while this is so disempowering, that while maybe only the Doctor and Doctor Who can really solve the problems of cracks running through the universe, that we have so many tools at our disposal to solve the cracks running through this world. I believe that the cracks, the breakdown of things, is making space for a new age. It may not be the dawning of the age of Aquarius, but we will let the light shine in. And until the light does shine through, perhaps what we need to be most doing is working on shining the light ourselves on those fissures. What we can do is we can point out the cracks. We can bring attention to them, to the rich and the powerful, the corporations, the politicians, the media. So let us ring out those bells that still can ring. Let's shine the light where the cracks appear. Let's use this cracking time in our society the same way we've used the obstacles in our own lives as places of strength from which we make the world better for others. May it be so. Our closing song is number 1059 in your teal hymnal. It's May Your Life Be As a Song. This is kind of a round, but Brad's going to do it all by himself, right? Yeah, I'll sing along a little bit too, maybe.
May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the night and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake a light and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night.
Our words for benediction are by Andrew Pacula. There are miles behind you and many more ahead. And as you journey on towards wholeness, may all that is good and true guide your way. May the joy of love lighten every step, and the miracle that is life be ever in your sight. Go in peace.
Peace be with you till we meet again. As life lays its task before you, keep love's banner floating o'er you. Peace be